This was the week when the Washington circus brought a guest star to town. Over the 3 decades that I have spent here, I cannot recall anything quite like it, or a louder alarm sounding for an imminent downturn in the US relationship with the UK, the very second that President Trump departs Britain in a couple of weeks' time, his picture with the King proudly in his pocket. For the state visit is now a massive hostage to fortune for the Prime Minister, given the determination by Republicans on Capitol Hill and their ally Nigel Farage to accuse the UK of free speech censorship.
So I've come today as well to be a klaxon, and you would be doing us and yourselves and all freedom-loving people a favour if your politicians and your businesses said to the British government, "You've simply got this wrong."
Never before has the leader of an opposition political party in the UK travelled 3,000 miles to testify before the United States Congress about his gripes with the British government. But Mr Farage was the star witness, testifying under oath before the House Judiciary Committee, chaired by prominent pro-Trump Republican Jim Jordan of Ohio. Earlier this year, Congressman Jordan brought the committee on a fact-finding mission to London, trying to put meat on the bones of complaints that were first aired by Vice President J.D. Vance when he alleged that the UK and its European neighbours are rolling back democracy and free speech protections. Never mind that President Trump is actively rolling back free speech protections right here in the United States. Mr Farage testified about the UK without any hint of irony.
At what point did we become North Korea? Well, I think the Irish comedy writer found that out 2 days ago at Heathrow Airport. This is a genuinely worrying, concerning and shocking situation, and I thank you for the opportunity to come here today.
Mr Farage referring there to the arrest of Father Ted creator Graham Linehan, detained this week over provocative social media postings about transgender issues, an arrest that led the Prime Minister to tell police to start prioritising serious crimes instead. In urging the US government and American businesses to stand foursquare against the Online Safety Act, Mr Farage was taking the extraordinary step of appealing for American intervention in his own country's affairs. We do not know precisely what he discussed at the White House over lunch on Wednesday with President Trump, but it is worth noting that the man coming here to grouse about free speech protections in the UK was visiting an Oval Office that every single day is actively challenging and rolling back the First Amendment to the American Constitution that guarantees freedom of speech here. A fact that the top Democrat on the committee, Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland, attempted to point out to the star witness from Clacton.
This hearing's just a drive-by hit against a strong Democratic ally to benefit a Donald Trump sycophant and wannabe. But it's even worse than this. Not only are our colleagues ignoring intensifying repression in the world's dictatorships, they're also trying to distract the world from the attack on freedom taking place right here in America.
Mr Raskin cited students being dragged off the streets by Trump's masked immigration and customs enforcement agents simply for writing newspaper articles with which the White House disagrees. The president's scorched earth policies aimed at eliminating the country's public broadcasting networks. His successful effort to force CBS News to place a bias monitor in its newsroom to police the commercial network's news content. His attacks on universities and demands to screen faculty members for their political views, and even museums being ordered to audit their exhibits to make sure they're not too woke to offend the president's sensibilities. And less than an hour after another raft of reporters was banned from Reform UK's conference in Birmingham, Mr Raskin walked Mr Farage, who again was testifying under oath, right into a possible perjury trap.
You've banned journalists from your political events that you disagree with, haven't you?
No, in fact, I'm the only political
Really?
leader
At your
in
convention, you didn't ban journalists and revoke their
take,
credentials?
You know, I take, the average press conference, I take 25 questions.
No, that wasn't my question. Mr. Farage, we're politicians, so we see what you're doing. I'm asking you a direct question.
Well, thank you.
I'm asking you a direct question, and I hope you can answer it. Why do you ban journalists who oppose your views from coming coming to your events? Why did you tell your party, why did you tell the local government not to do interviews with your local newspaper?
I am the most open person to any journalist.
Undoubtedly, you're the handsomest man in the world. But I'm asking you a different question, okay? That's not my question. My question for you is, and it's legit, why do you ban journalists that you disagree with from your political events, like from your convention?
I don't.
Okay, and you say you've never done that?
I can't think, if I go back the last 25 years, I can't think of banning anybody. But I mean, maybe somebody else did. But look,
I see. It was somebody else who did it.
It was a stunning pasting of the kind Mr. Farage rarely faces at home, but one that Mr. Raskin clearly had planned and for which he was well prepared. But of course, Republicans are in the majority on the committee, as they are on Capitol Hill. This is their America now, and President Trump is being actively urged to take much stronger action over the Online Safety Act. The free speech issue could still prove to be the altar on which his friendly relationship so far with Sir Keir Starmer is eventually sacrificed. In other areas, alarms about the future were also ringing loudly this week.
We just over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago. And
the president announcing that the US military had taken extrajudicial action on the high seas against a boat that he claimed was ferrying drugs to the United States on behalf of the Venezuela-based Tren de Aragua criminal gang. We soon saw video gathered by the US military depicting the destruction and incineration of a speeding boat. You cannot see the drugs aboard that the president claimed, nor whether there really were 11 people all killed, as the White House insists. At the Department of Defense, which of course as of tonight is to be renamed by President Trump the Department of War, career military officers made their anxiety over the legality of the attack known to reporters. They said there was no reason the boat could not have been intercepted at sea and those aboard apprehended, the drugs all recovered as evidence. But Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth indicated the Trump administration's policy is now simple: shoot first and ignore questions later.
Mr. Secretary, what legal authority did the Pentagon invoke to strike that boat full of drug smugglers?
We have the absolute and complete authority to conduct that. First of all, just the defense of the American people alone. I said we smoked a drug boat, and there's 11 narco-terrorists at the bottom of the ocean. And when other people try to do that, they're going to meet the same fate.
Not even the pretense there of acting within the law, and it is, as he indicated, just the beginning. His Department of War is going to wage war on Tren de Aragua in order to argue that the Venezuelan gang is waging war on the United States, which will provide the pretext for yet another emergency declaration by President Trump as he gathers together ever more sweeping powers. Another 268,000 Venezuelans living legally in the United States were told this week they've got to go. Their temporary protected status will be revoked in 60 days' time. All of these emergency claims, of course, are subject to legal review. And this week, President Trump learnt that yet another court has ruled that his Liberation Day tariffs implemented against the UK and the rest of the world are illegal. A federal appeals court ruled that there was no emergency that allowed the president to sideline Congress back in April in order to launch the opening salvo in his trade war.
because without the tariffs, this country is in serious, serious trouble. We've taken in almost $17 trillion of investment is coming in. Most of it is coming because of tariffs.
President Trump announcing that he is now appealing to the US Supreme Court to keep the centerpiece of his trade, economic and arguably even foreign policy in place.
But we had a liberal court gave us a very shocking ruling. And that ruling is basically saying that the trillions of dollars that are pouring into our country, putting us in a position like no country is anywhere in the world, that they'd like to see us that taken away.
Now, you might think if those claims of trillions of dollars in investment were true, job creation would be through the roof here. And yet new figures out this morning showed that last month only 22,000 new jobs were created across the entire United States. You would not want to be the official who gathered those awful numbers. The last one was fired just a month ago for presenting data that the president found objectionable. We do not have time this week to bask in the glory of Robert F. Kennedy's astonishing congressional testimony on Thursday about vaccines. Suffice it to say, for now, he's a big problem for Donald Trump, but an even bigger one for American public health. The health of the president came under the microscope last weekend when the ever-accessible Donald Trump seemed largely to disappear from view for a few days, which gave rise to conspiracy theories spreading like wildfire on Elon Musk's X, now a cesspool of nonsense at the best of times. But it did give rise to the president being asked a question on Monday that no White House correspondent has ever thought to ask before.
How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead?
You know, I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said, there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape.
What kind of physical shape is Donald Trump really in? We do not know. But if his opponents want to beat him, they could have spent last weekend trying to come up with some compelling policies and maybe even a leader, instead of gleefully trafficking in conspiracy theories about his non-existent demise.